Last time, in the land of bridges, jellyfolk, and heroic property damage, the sky stitched itself back together, the ocean came home. And out of a sunken castle swam the jellyfolk, part memory, part light, and somehow always part awkward family barbecue hologram. The ants made peace with them, got themselves bubble shoes, and business was booming between the ant nursery, the docks, and the glowing palace beneath the waves. Until Kalm decided to test her three-headed hammer against Riot's sacred armor. The armor survived. The grain barns, livestock, and herb fields, not so much. Which is right about when the Oh My Backbreakers arrived. SUV-sized sea turtles fused with lions, tigers, and bears. Oh my. The family split their picks. Grandpa Fury went for the grizzly back. Kalm claimed the tiger back. And Riot accidentally asked for a sea lion turtle. Got roasted for it. Settled for the lion back. What followed was chaos in the surf. Grandpa went full underground wrestling legend, pile-driving his opponent until it doubled as a nesting site. Kalm ziplined into battle in harpoon mode, tenderizing her tiger back like seafood for a feast. And Riot? With Aunt Glad's probably fine potion, he ballooned into a 16-foot frog juggernaut and methodically dunked his lion back to sleep. Not to kill it, just to seriously inconvenience it. By the time the sand settled and the surf calmed, all three beasts were beaten, the jellyfolk were safe, and a damp villager was promising the heroes a well-earned dinner. Grandpa, of course, took that as his cue to go find someone who truly appreciates him. And maybe a bigger audience for the legend. Grandpa Fury doesn't wade into the ocean. He claims it. Boots sinking into the wet sand, hands set on his hips, chin tilted like the water showed up late to work. The tide hisses in around him like it's second-guessing the idea. The jellyfolk ring him in, their light pulse chatter somewhere between reverence and, "Who is this lunatic?" The others follow for entirely different reasons. Riot, still a 16-foot amphibian courtesy of Aunt Glad's probably fine potion, frog paddles after him like a loyal but confused attack dog. His armor groans like a ship's hull with every kick. Kalm keeps her harpoon axe in snorkel mode, casually pulling in air like she's chain-smoking oxygen. She refuses to admit it's not dignified. Aunt Glad, deciding outright refusal would be ruder than drowning, drifts along in a shimmering bubble. She steers it with two fingers like she's scrolling through a menu, muttering every time it bobs off course. And Knotta, newly awake and still so superheated from her lava growth that water hisses into steam the moment it touches her, coils in on herself like a spiral of living vents. Her trail of hot bubbles shoots upward, and jellyfish children ride the plumes as if they found a water park slide. Giggles and bursts of light trail them. Glad pretends not to notice. Riot breaks the silence first, voice bubbling out with a wet croak. "Ribbit, how is Grandpa Fury not going up for air yet?" Aunt Glad's reply floats back, dry as her wine. "He won't let me study him, but those mirror arms of his, they've got some funny consequences." The words spark Riot's memory. The mirror armor ritual. The blinding flash. His supposed dead grandfather, exhausted and ancient, clutching a mirror door shut. All the man had managed was a raspy, "About damn time. It's your turn." Then he'd collapsed. Too bad Kalm's patented neck wrap and whip-axe throw had shattered that door after only a few days of Grandpa holding it shut. Though in hindsight, maybe it was for the best. That's how they found Aunt Glad and Knotta. And that's how she roped them all together long enough to wake Grandpa back up, against the constellation bears. Who could forget that mess? Riot's memory bursts like a bubble when his chest aches for air. He waves frantically at Kalm, pointing to the axe snorkel. She doesn't even blink. Gross. Frog breath. Still, she relents just long enough for him to gulp a lungful before he kicks back down into the procession. By now, the jellyfolk don't just see strangers. They see a parade. The crowd swells as the family reaches the coral-lit plaza beneath the castle arches. Rings of translucent onlookers hover in layered tiers. Elders marked by glowing shell crests that gleam like molten pearls. The water itself seems to hum with their light, and far away the ocean drums against the reef as if keeping time. The plaza isn't just crowded, it's buzzing. At the center floats a young jelly prince, surrounded by an entourage of differently colored attendants like living lanterns. Their light pulses in practiced unison, the kind of pageantry that usually guarantees him the spotlight. Not today. The crowd's gaze skips right over him. Every pair of eyes is locked on the so-called parade, Grandpa Fury, claiming the ocean like he owns it. Riot, swollen into amphibian bulk. Kalm, chain-smoking air through her snorkel axe. Aunt Glad in her muttering, bobbing bubble. And Knotta trailing a wake of boiling water and delighted jelly children. The prince's glow dims a shade. Then it spikes brighter, as if he can will his wattage into winning back the stage. He straightens, or rather elongates, until his upper half is a regal, humanoid silhouette. With fluid arrogance, he reshapes his lower half into a sweeping seahorse tail, drifting forward like royalty on a private float. His voice cuts through the plaza, resonant and proud. I, heir to the coral throne, issue a formal challenge. Grandpa doesn't even hesitate. Finally, someone worth embarrassing. The prince's glow flickers, not with fear, but with outrage. The boast-off ignites instantly. Grandpa recounts battles, storms, and one time he sank a sea serpent by glaring at it. The prince fires back with claims of impossible speed, breathtaking grace, and allegedly saving a whale from choking on an anchor. The duel of egos climbs higher until Grandpa, with a casual shrug, tosses in a wager. The family jewels, literal and metaphorical. His reasoning is simple. You can't win what you're too scared to bet. The boasting doesn't end in words. It blossoms into spectacle. The plaza transforms. Coral arches flare brighter, the jellyfolk shimmer in layered rings like a living coliseum. Their colors pulse and ripple like a neon crowd wave, gossip and laughter flashing in quick bursts. Blue for approval, green for mockery, red for scandal. The water itself vibrates with the rhythm, a living arena drum. At the center, Grandpa Fury throws his arms wide, beard streaming like a victory banner. His voice booms through the current. Do you jelly lanterns see it? You've got a prince with a crown and a glow, but you need a champion with a story. The crowd answers in cascading bursts of orange and teal. The prince stiffens, elongating his glow into something sharp, regal, desperate. He counter-boasts, his voice rich and rolling. This relic clings to storms long past. I carry the tide itself in my veins. The jellyfolk flicker between sides, colors jumping like a stadium lightboard. A group of elders glow a steady pearl, unamused. Kids shoot pink-green-pink, egging the feud on. Even Knotta, still not A to most of them, saved long ago as a bundle in a knot, stares bright-eyed from the crowd. The challenge is set. The banquet becomes games. 1. Clam Cannonball Contest. The first event ends in a chaos of cheers and drifting kelp confetti. Grandpa Fury surfaces with a roar, seawater pouring off his beard, standing over the stunned jelly prince like a victorious wrestler pinning his rival. The prince can't believe it. Not the loss, not the stakes. Grandpa raises a fist. Now tell me, what kind of royal numbskull wagers his people's finest possession in a party game? The plaza flashes scandal red and mocking green. Gasps ripple. One jellyfish heckles pulsing yellow. Lucky shot! Barnacle beard! Grandpa leans closer to the prince, grin sharp enough to split coral. Don't worry, I'm not a liar. I'll collect it myself, because it's mine now. The crowd roars, half in awe, half horrified. Side bets spark instantly. Shells clink. Gossip churns. A merchant glows lime green, bragging, I said the old man had the weight. The prince opens his mouth to protest, but Grandpa rolls his shoulders, voice dropping casual as if this isn't madness at all. Tell you what, I'll play you for it again. A collective gasp. Even the sea cucumbers stop moving. Betting twice is lunacy. The prince blinks, caught between insult and relief. Grandpa just grins wider, basking in the uproar like he lit the reef on fire and left it burning. 2. Squid-ink darts. Next comes the dart round, blindfolded contestants firing ink at spinning coral targets, judged not just on accuracy, but style. The jellyfolk excel, of course. They shift their ink mid-shot, scarlet to emerald to gold, painting living rainbows across the targets. Grandpa squints under his blindfold, beard bristling. He misses one shot, then nails another, beard still dripping. The crowd pulses like a lava lamp factory. Colors bubbling, mixing, gossip sparking from every corner. Try winning without the beard, old man, someone yells, flashing violet heckles. Lucky shot! Lucky shot! Riot ribbits supportively from the sidelines, too big to join. Kalm rolls her eyes and mutters something about beard privilege. Aunt Glad just swirls her wine in her bubble, unimpressed. The tide hums against the coral. The plaza is alive, and Grandpa Fury, grinning wide, soaks it all in. The banquet turned game spiral into full spectacle. By the time Grandpa Fury takes his third victory lap, the plaza looks like a kaleidoscope. Jellyfolk ripple in rainbow waves, gossip flashing like bioluminescent graffiti. Side bets have escalated from seashells to actual heirlooms. Riot mutters, "Did we really need the synchronized clam juggling round?" Kalm, deadpan, "You're just bitter you lost to a bivalve." Aunt Glad swirls another wine bubble into orbit. "If one of you doesn't win me in hors d'oeuvre platter, I'm defecting." The prince fumes, but the crowd is hooked, and the contests just keep coming. Not 4. Starfish stack-off contestants kneel in the sand, balancing live starfish into teetering towers. The creatures twitch and wriggle, slowly walking the towers away mid-build. The prince arranges his carefully, muttering precision. Grandpa Fury slaps his starfish into place like he's stacking chairs after a bar fight. The crowd roars as his leaning, wobbling tower somehow stands, even as 3 of the starfish try to crawl for freedom. Riot ribbits a laugh. "That's not architecture, that's hostage-taking." Kalm shrugs. "Still counts." A heckler flashes crimson. "Old man's got sticky fingers." Grandpa cups a hand to his ear. "Sticky? Son, this is called grip strength." The plaza erupts in blue-green cheers. The prince nearly glows white-hot with frustration. 5. School of Fish Art Conductor. A massive reef school shimmers in a holding ring, darting like liquid jewels. Contestants are handed ribboned coral batons, told to conduct the fish into patterns. The prince flourishes his baton, coaxing a luminous spiral. It collapses instantly as half the school chases a stray bubble. Grandpa swishes once, and the fish accidentally form a crude outline of his beard. He freezes, then roars in triumph. Even the wildlife respects the legend. The jellyfolk ripple yellow-green, half laughing, half scandalized. A cluster of elders flash pale pink in disapproval. One particularly loud heckle blares, "Try winning without the beard, old man." "Lucky shot! Lucky shot!" Kalm crosses her arms. "He didn't even try. They just did that." Aunt Glad smirks. Nature has taste. Electric Eel Rodeo. The final announced event brings out a set of sleek, surprisingly polite eels fitted with decorative coral saddles. The first 10 seconds are easy. The eels buck lazily, as if embarrassed by the whole affair. But at the mark, they switch on. Currents crackle. Sparks light the water. The plaza gasps as one jellyfolk contestant spasms and tumbles off his eel, smoke curling faintly from his tendrils. The prince grits his teeth, hanging on by posture alone. He glows fierce gold, muttering his family's honor with every second. "Grandpa?" He cackles. He grabs the saddle one-handed, beard bristling like an insulator, and leans into the jolts as if daring the eel to fry him harder. The crowd explodes in neon. Neither is Grandpa. When the eel finally gives up, going limp under him, Grandpa dismounts like a rodeo king, raising both arms in victory. The crowd flashes in riotous waves, scandal, laughter, awe. The prince's glow flickers, dimming with every pulse. Na 7. Bubble Net Maze. A sprawling course unfolds above the plaza, nets of shimmering air bubbles weaving through the water like a glowing labyrinth. The challenge: thread your way through without bursting more than 3. The prince glides in with practiced elegance, flexing every line of his form into something serpentine and precise. The crowd oohs. Grandpa Fury? He barrels in like he's charging through a hedge maze with a beer in hand. Every few feet a bubble bursts against his beard, each pop punctuated by jellyfolk gasps and laughter. And of course, the spectators don't make it easy. They crowd close, bumping and swirling, accidentally popping bubbles in his path. The plaza turns into a neon nursery, colors flashing, gossip bubbling like a lava lamp factory. From somewhere near the reef, someone yells, "Win it without the whiskers, Grandpa! Lucky flop! Lucky flop!" Grandpa just bellows back, "Flop? Boy, that was style." The prince grinds his teeth. The crowd loves it. Side thread, the tentacle tap. In the chaos, Kalm feels a light tap against her shoulder. Riot too. Tentacles, not hands. 2 jittery jellyfolk hover behind them, colors flickering in a nervous code that says plain as words, "This isn't for the prince's ears." Before the next event can even start, they guide Kalm and Riot away. Through coral tunnels, the noise fades, replaced by the hush of refracted light. The further they go, the softer the glow, like walking deeper into stained glass. They emerge into the heart of jellyfolk territory. Quiet, expectant, waiting. Banquet scene. The bubble buffet. The feast isn't laid out on tables, it drifts. Dozens of chandelier-like clusters of air bubbles float in the current, each cradling a dish or drink. They bob gently, tethered by strands of kelp or delicate coral hooks. Light fractures through them into prisms, so the whole spread looks like a drifting constellation of snacks. And the rules are obvious, even without explanation. Rule 1. Press your mouth to the bubble and sip without breaking it. Rule 2. Pop it, and you've wasted food. Instant disgrace. Aunt Glad, immediate adaptation. Aunt Glad sizes it up once, then rewrites the rules. With a slow, patient swirl of her fingers, she siphons wine directly into her own air bubble, leaving the originals intact. Within minutes, she has a 3-bubble minibar orbiting her like planets. Every so often, she plucks one into her lips for a sip, looking for all the world like she's hosting a cocktail hour in zero gravity. Kalm mutters, "Of course she hacked the buffet." Riot ribbits back, "Honestly, respect." The Jellyfolk stare, somewhere between horrified and impressed. Still mostly frog, Riot approaches the bubble buffet like it's prey. First attempt, his tongue darts out, smacks a stew bubble. Pop, stew splatters across his face. Second attempt, a delicate bite. Pop, spicy kelp soup floods his gills. He gags, half choking. Third, he stretches his jaw as wide as it will go, aiming for wine. Instead, he clips 2 dessert bubbles. Pop, pop. Custard and candied coral burst around him like confetti. The jellyfolk gasp, flashing horrified violet. A murmur ripples. How is this creature still alive? By the 4th try, the young prince can't hold it in. He laughs outright, glow flickering smug and golden. One helpful jellyfolk swaps in a bubble of seawater just to twist the knife. Riot slurps it whole and immediately coughs like he swallowed poison. Kalm shakes her head. You're an amphibian disaster. Aunt Glad, sipping her orbiting wine. Finally, something entertaining. Kalm zero patience. Kalm doesn't even attempt finesse. She grabs an entire string of bubbles and shoves them into her mouth in one savage gulp. Food, drink, air, all at once. Half the jellyfolk pulse in horrified crimson, whispering culinary blasphemy. The other half nod in silent approval. Brutal, but undeniably effective. Riot croaks. Cheating. Kalm smirks. Winning. Back to the arena. Hoops of light. A sudden roar surges through the coral halls. Gasps, flashes, the low, steady drum of jellyfolk anticipation. Kalm glances toward the tunnel. A flare of golden light ripples through the walls. Out in the open water, the young prince and Grandpa Fury have already started their next contest. The hoops. Dozens of jellyfolk have formed perfect rings with their bodies, pulsing light in unison. The challenge is simple in name. Thread the hoops without touching a single tentacle. In practice, it's a gauntlet of precision, speed, and impossible showmanship. The prince slices through like a comet, sleek, fluid, royalty in motion. One moment his lower half is a dolphin tail, the next a coiled eel, then a sharpened spear. Each transformation carries him cleanly through another ring. His entourage flares bright, their bodies shimmering applause with every pass. Hoops of light, Grandpa's turn. And then Grandpa Fury takes a different approach. He doesn't dodge, he doesn't weave, he pivots. Boots anchoring, arms snapping wide, he starts spinning, slow at first, then faster, faster, until the shimmer of his mirror-forged arms and his boots blur into a full-blown cyclone. The water churns, a vortex spiraling outward. The jellyfolk rings shudder, yelps flashing bright as contestants are dragged into his slipstream. And then, he threads it. The cyclone doesn't smash the hoops, it pulls them through itself, twisting the entire gauntlet into alignment like a tornado threading a needle. The crowd goes berserk. A neon eruption, laughter flashing aquamarine, awe pulsing golden, scandal streaks in deep scarlet. Grandpa bursts out the other side, hair plastered back, boots planted in an impossible stance. He doesn't even breathe heavy, just jerks a thumb at the prince. Grandpa Fury, style points. The plaza detonates, half laughing, half roaring applause. The prince forces a smile, but the glow in his body flickers like a bad lantern. His entourage dim to embarrassed pinks, trying not to be seen. The nursery and the ink tax. But away from the cheers, other problems ripple through jellyfolk territory. Word spreads, the community has finally carved out a proper nursery for their young, warm currents, coral arches, room to grow safe from predators. And that's when the sharks showed up. A local clan imposed what they call the ink tax. Protection money, they said. Except jellyfolk don't produce ink unless they're terrified. The shark's solution? Twisted kind of funhouse cruelty. An underwater haunted house. Jump scares, predator silhouettes, distorted sound pulses, stress triggers. Enough to wring fear from anyone. Enough to make the ink flow. They collect it like currency. Riot and Kalm at the exchange. Riot and Kalm swim to the exchange hall, pushing through the shadowed reef. The three shark enforcers on duty loom large, but something feels off. They're big, sure, teeth like razors, but the movements are jittery. Eyes twitching to every corner. They're not tough. They're acting tough. A performance. And under it all? Sharp. Very sharp. The conversation barely gets going before they stiffen at once, scanning the water like radar. Shark 1 snaps. Thermal anomaly. Shark 2, hyperpredator presence. Shark 3, abort. Kalm smirks, weapon resting loose in her grip. Oh, relax. That's just Knotta. Guess we've got backup. High above in the shadows, Knotta stirs. She uncoils, one burning eye cracking open. For a moment, the entire chamber seems to hold its breath. And then she leaves. No rush. No acknowledgement. Just a slow, deliberate slide into deeper water, a faint trail of steam fading behind her. If Kalm and Riot were hoping for backup, that hope sank with Knotta's disappearing steam trail. Neither of them feels like testing shark teeth today, so they pivot. Thinking fast, they flash a container half full of ink. Claiming they already ran the haunted house gauntlet and finished in record time, less than an hour. Maybe it's gotten too easy, they suggest. Maybe the jellyfolk have found a shortcut no one's admitting to. Either way, the fear factor just isn't there. The sharks twitch, exchange glances. The thought of their prized ink-harvesting maze being underwhelming cuts deep. And that's how, within minutes, Riot and Kalm are flanking two uneasy tax collectors, all of them signed up to run the haunted house together. Exactly the opening they were looking for. Entrance. The haunted house. The kelp maze entrance bubbles like a cauldron. Steam coils upward, warping the water into shimmering heat waves. Out of the haze, Knotta is curled tight as a vent, coils glowing faintly. Baby jellyfolk cling to her steam plumes, riding them upward with squeals of laughter before drifting back down, over and over, like they've discovered the ocean's only water slide. The two sharks hover on the fringe, just far enough away to avoid meeting her eye. First chamber, escape room from hell. They don't make it far before the fun derails. The first chamber is an escape room, but the mechanics are designed by sadists. What would be a simple lever puzzle on land turns into a nightmare when water drags every piece out of alignment. And worse, every time they think they've cracked it, a disembodied voice cuts through the murk telling them to pause and complete some unrelated side task. There is no pause. The sharks mutter under their breath, fins twitching with frustration. Then the back-in-my-day speakers crackle alive, droning about how haunted houses used to be scarier, used to be harder, used to have craftsmanship. The sharks look ready to bite the walls just to make it stop. Kalm and Riot react. Kalm strolls forward unfazed, harpoon balanced loose in her grip. But the second something brushes its edge, she detonates like a car alarm. The weapon whips in every direction, her whole body vibrating with kill-ready energy until the water itself backs off. Riot, meanwhile, treats every scare like it's an obstacle course. He leaps into animatronic predators, wrestling them like they're real. He accidentally dismantles half the sound traps, sending wires and shells drifting. A skeleton prop drifts toward him. He smashes it to powder. The sharks glare, dorsal fins flickering with irritation. Their body language screams, "Stop ruining our toys." Second escape room, eel encounter. The second chamber grinds them to a halt. The puzzle is obvious, almost insultingly so. But no matter what they try, the solution refuses to trigger. They hover in silence, frustration thick in the water. Then Riot's oversized foot lands on a pressure plate. From the shadows, an animatronic eel lurches out. At first, it looks like another scare, glassy eyes, jerky servo movements, but instead of lunging, it freezes. One eye swivels. Blink, blink. Then it tilts its head, drifts forward, and presses its nose to Riot's chest with a sad little squeak. The eel has decided. Riot is mom. From that moment on, it follows him everywhere, nuzzling his shoulder, bumping clumsily into walls, wielded in a servo motors squealing like a lost puppy. Shark meltdown. That's all it takes. The sharks lose every shred of composure. They spiral into frantic loops, voices overlapping in bursts of hyper-technical jargon, sonar equations, predatory anomaly charts, stress trigger diagnostics, all delivered in panicked blurts that boil down to, "We're not scared. We're not scared. We're totally scared." Finally, the lead shark snaps. Okay. This is horrible. Full-blown panic mode. Get us out of here." They don't even look for the exit. They plow through the nearest wall like an underwater Dr. Sports drink commercial. Kelp, props, and shells flying in their wake as they scream, "Let's go!" Calm and Riot aftermath. The wreckage settles. Calm and Riot float in the silence, both breathing steady through her three-headed snorkel axe. Riot croaks, half amused. "Fight or flight, huh? They're pretty tough." Calm snorts. "For a bunch of security catfish." The real reveal. Minutes later, the sharks drift back in, scales still trembling though they try to look composed. Calm crosses her arms. "We still need the ink," Riot shrugs. "Definitely not war paint, so taxes?" The lead shark fixes them with a dead serious stare. "No, to paint over the ocean floor mirror hole." The jellyfolk blink in confusion. Calm arches one eyebrow. The sharks shuffle, then add quickly, "We'll just have to ask Aunt Glad, she'll understand." Wrap back to main story. They slog back into the banquet hall, dripping seawater, dragging paint-smeared sharks behind them. Riot's new eel pet hums faintly, coiled around his neck like a malfunctioning scarf. Grandpa Fury is halfway through a mouthful of grilled reef crab. He glances up for half a second, grunts, "You missed the kelp pudding." From within her orbiting wine-stocked bubble, Aunt Glad sighs long and loud. "They brought sharks to dinner. Lovely." Eel epilogue. Knotta intervenes. The banquet hall buzzes with gossip, colors flashing in waves. Riot's eel scarf hums pitifully, wrapped around his neck like a needy mechanical boa. Knotta drifts past, all calm disinterest, the same not a child once found tied in a knot, now with the slow grace of someone who's seen enough nonsense to fill a library. She pauses just long enough to glance at the eel. The eel squeaks, nuzzles Riot's chin. Servo motors grind. Knotta exhales, almost bored, then snaps one quick motion. A shimmer of pressure, a twist of current. The eel sparks once, lets out a pathetic whine, and goes limp. Riot stares stunned. He thought I was his mom." Knotta doesn't even answer. She just pats his shoulder like she's brushing crumbs off a table and drifts on, leaving the eel's lifeless frame bobbing away. Aunt Glad raises her glass. "Good riddance. I was about to feed it to the soup." The mirror hole problem. The sharks, still trembling but determined to salvage their dignity, finally explain the issue. Painting over the ocean floor mirror hole was the only thing they'd found that worked. But Aunt Glad perks up immediately, eyes gleaming. Knotta drifts closer too, still bubbling, but just enough less to feel probably approachable. Connecting mirror realms, Aunt Glad explains, isn't a threat at all. It's a blessing. More space, more resources. Her section of the mirror realm is choking under lava that refuses to cool. Ecosystems are collapsing. They need water. And here's the catch. Water can't cross just any mirror. It has to be a mirror realm underwater mirror. Her solution is simple, at least to her. A sudden waterfall from this ocean floor connection could restore balance, cooling the lava, rewriting the environment. The sharks, thrilled to be relieved of responsibility, immediately swim to a safe distance to observe. The last event, tug of war. But the crowd isn't done yet. The final contest has them packed into the plaza tighter than ever, shimmering like a bioluminescent storm. Their champion emerges, a lanky, coral-hued jellyfolk with a dozen lazy tendrils. Without a word, he threads one arm into a massive rubber band sling anchored between two reef posts. On the other end, Knotta. Still dripping from earlier races, her tail coiled tight, eyes narrowed in grim determination. Grandpa Fury stomps forward, rolling his shoulders like a prizefighter stepping into the ring. He plants his boots on the coral floor, grabs Knottatail's tail in both hands, and growls, "Hold steady, lass. We'll make sashimi out of this squid." The signal comes. The jellyfolk champion leans back, tendrils quivering, the sling stretches tight, the tug begins. The crowd erupts in color, light, and thunderous drumming currents as Fury braces, muscles locking, hauling Knottatail toward his side inch by inch. The jellyfolk champion's smug smile falters. Grandpa bellows, veins standing out like anchors. Almost there. And then the plaza was a storm of color and sound. The jellyfolk champion leaned back in the sling, tendrils stretched taut as coral bows. On the other end, Knotta braced like a pillar, tail coiled and eyes blazing, and anchoring her, only one man, Grandpa Fury. Hands clamped around her tail, boots dug deep into the reef floor, beard bristling like a battle flag. He was the rope, the anchor, the whole show. The crowd shrieked in pulses of gold and red as the band drew tighter, the sling trembling with strain. Fury grunted, face red, hauling against a dozen jelly tendrils. It was a stalemate. For one glorious moment, it looked like he'd pull the champion across. Then Aunt Glad's voice cut through the noise, bright and airy as if she wasn't 3 wines deep. "Oh, Knottatail, dear, be a darling and help me with this mirror hole before it swallows the wrong fish." Knotta's ears twitched. She hesitated, then bolted toward Aunt Glad. Grandpa Fury, still gripping her tail, was yanked forward with a startled bellow. The sling recoiled like a whip, catapulting him through the water in a perfect arc. He crashed down flat on a bed of sea cucumbers with a wet, undignified whump. The crowd exploded. Laughter shimmered in neon ripples. The Jellyfolk champion raised one lazy tendril in salute, victorious by default. Fury sat up, spitting brine. Bah, weren't hungry for victory anyway. Needed to eat. He rubbed his stomach and muttered, "Blood sugar drops, you let a prince win. That's the rule." And with that, he stomped off toward the banquet tables as if nothing had happened. Chash underwater operation. While the laughter still rippled, Aunt Glad drew Knotta close, patting her like a loyal hound. With her snake leg already coiling, she led her to the ocean floor mirror hole. There, with a magician's flourish, she pulled out 3 small mirror entrances, each a doorway into her and Knotta's private space. She studied them, kept the one that lined up with the edge of the lava flow. Then came the strangest moment. Aunt Glad produced a plastic bag, stuffed her hair into it, looking utterly ridiculous, then popped her bubble. Holding her breath, she pressed the chosen mirror against the portal. The surface shimmered. The ocean answered. Later, Mirror Realm Camp. By the time they regrouped at camp, the deed was done. Riot had finally shrunk back to mostly normal size, though with eyes a little too wide and limbs still a little too frog for comfort. In the distance, a new waterfall hissed into the mirror realm, steaming as it poured into a saltwater lake. The temperature held in the high 80s, warm and strange. The sharks lounged in it like it was a spa day they'd earned. Kalm's weapon had shifted again. No snorkel, no harpoon, just the true form of her 3-headed axe. One face a hammer with broken, crooked teeth, one a sharp-nosed pick, the last a tangle of hair strands swaying like kelp in a current. And Grandpa Fury? For once, quiet. The games were done. The feast was eaten. He sat by the campfire with the smug air of a man who still believed he was undefeated, even if the scoreboard said otherwise. Eyes closed, beard damp, snoring like thunder. Episode 6 faded out on the sound of him, satisfied in deep and victorious sleep. Epilogue, Aunt Glad's assurance. As the campfire dimmed and the new waterfall hissed in the distance, Aunt Glad drifted closer, her wine bubbles swirling lazily around her. She rested a hand on Knotta's shoulder, voice soft enough that only the young shark could hear. "Adding the mirrored ocean to our realm?" she mused, as if swatting away a gnat. "Hardly any consequences. Science is full of exaggeration. You'll see." Knotta frowned, ears twitching. Glad sipped, then added with the patience of a professor dismissing a nervous student. "But you must learn, dear. By taking the ocean, you take the sharks. You can't just frighten scientists into ink forever. Fear isn't a field of study. It's a tax bracket." The sharks in the steaming lake pretended not to overhear, flashing embarrassed colors. Glad tipped her glass in their direction, smirking. "Even if they are scared sharks." The water hummed with uneasy laughter. And then, as if nothing more needed to be said, the scene froze on Grandpa Fury's triumphant snore, a neon subtitle practically painting itself across the reef. Like, subscribe, survive. Episode 6, The Mirror Between Us, end.